thank everyone for joining Ronnie and I today. Here,
Hey everybody.
let me put the chats on the screen. Okay, so if you're out there, please say hello so that we know our chat is working. We appreciate y'all joining us today. Now, Ronnie and I are doing a class. It's back by popular demand. Rise of the Creatrix. We taught it. I know it was a couple of months ago now, maybe
Yeah,
3 or
I think it was back in February.
Yes, I think it was back in February. This year is flying by, and then we were going to do it again in May, and before we knew it, here we are. So we're actually start the class in June. It's Rise of the Creatrix, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful way to find your path that is right for you and learn how to go with the flow. No matter what you do for a living, no matter what your goals are, learn to go with the flow of the universe and to stop leaking power. Stop, saying yes when you don't mean yes, having strong boundaries, just all those things that help you figure out who you are and become yourself, like remembering yourself, remembering your power. That's what this class is about. So this master class is something we are super excited about. So thank you for being here today, Ronnie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and that was just a beautiful summary of what this master class is about. And if I may, I kind of wanted to add something that I've been noticing with a lot of the clients and people who have been DMing me or reaching out to me. You called out that, coming back to yourself. And I think that what I've observed is a lot of women, especially, I mean, yes, this is prevalent with men, but more so with women, is that we have become performers. And what I mean by that is we have somehow subconsciously or consciously been taught that we need to align with our environment or our communities from a place of what are our goals, or
Yeah.
how do we blend in with those that are around us.
Mm-hmm.
And subconsciously, what happens to women when we go down that path is that we lose ourselves, because goals, while they're fantastic and great, there's still somewhat of a materialistic layer to them, because it's more so about accomplishment of this thing and
Yeah.
checking it off this predetermined list of things that you're supposed to do in order to fit in,
Mm-hmm.
versus, looking at ourselves and saying, what makes me feel fulfilled? What truly brings like happiness and calm and
Mm-hmm.
peace to me? And shaping and creating our environment based off of that, right? That's why there can be cases where outwardly you seem successful, or you're in the right crowd, like I say
Right.
that with quotes,
Yes,
but
of
yet you
course.
still feel like something is missing, because that alignment isn't there, that alignment to what I like to call your guiding principles for your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The things that really, I don't want to say motivate you, but steer you towards your destiny in a way that feels effortless,
Yeah.
right? And when I say effortless, I don't mean that there's no hurdles that you have to overcome, but there's no resistance to taking risk or feeling uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of women, because, to a certain degree, we're still being told, what is supposed to make us happy, what is supposed to make us feel accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, those things aren't necessarily aligned with who we truly are, or who it is that we want to be and how we want to present ourselves to the
Right.
to the world. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what Rise of Creatrix is about. It's about, that moment of acknowledgement that,
Mm-hmm.
hey, yeah, this life I have, it might be great, or I'm almost there, or hey, I'm not there at all. But being truthful with yourself about where you are and saying, hey, it's okay for me to take a step backwards and look within myself and, really assess what is going on before I decide what my next steps are going to be. Like, do I need to pivot? Like, is there more for me that, like, this container that I'm in is not allowing me to expand upon?
This reminds me so much of whenever, I mentor people in the last rise of the creatrix class, how, there's all different levels of people. This is not for just one person. It's just for women in general. And, there's so many, I will mentor so many successful ladies, and they have all the trappings, that society says they should have. But then there is, and we talked a lot about this in our last class, there is that feeling of being stuck. There is that still that confidence issue. You would be amazed at how many women who are CEOs of companies or run companies, and they still have this confidence issue. And a lot of that stems from what I call being incongruent with your energy. You, like Renelle was just talking about, you check the boxes that society says you should check. But is that really who you are? And is that who your soul is saying that you should be? That's where you have this incongruent energy. And that's will make you feel stuck. It'll make you feel unsatisfied when you shouldn't. It'll make you feel like, why do I feel like I'm never doing enough? I for those of you who have followed me and length of time know I have a very serious illness, and I had to slow down a couple of years ago. I didn't realize how much worth of my own I put on my output. How many of you value, oh, I did this and I worked and I claimed that I did all of the things. And I really had to slow down and start resting and taking care of myself more so physically. And that was hard to do. I think that we put so much, I'm just so exhausted when I go to bed, like it's a badge of honor. Or you list all the things that you accomplished because it makes you feel like it is your worth. And this is not about, Rise of the Creatrix is not about becoming someone different. It's about remembering who you are.
Yeah.
And, Ronnie and I have very similar belief systems. We believe the same kind of power resides in both of us, but we know that we present it differently to the world. Just like I'm looking at the people in the comments, like Marilyn is going to present differently in the world because who she's put here to be is different. Same principles apply across everyone. How do you get to who you are at a soul level? Remembering who you are is the same process. It's just going to present itself different for whoever, for what your soul path is. And so it's time for people to stop waiting for permission to do something for yourself. It's time for you to give yourself permission to take this master class, take a class that is just for you. Give yourself permission to carve out that time on your schedule, something that is just for you. Give yourself permission to become a better version of who you are. Give yourself permission to find out, to remember who you are, what you're put here to do.
Yeah, and what's so beautiful about, excuse me, Rise of the Creatrix is that, you know, over a 4-week period, because we'd be meeting, once a week for 4 weeks,
Yeah.
we're going to cover some really integral topics that are just fundamental to just a human being and
Yes.
presenting yourself as your truest self, like going through your identity, going through the energy of money, going through sovereignty, integrating everything that, Christy and I are teaching you. And again, a lot of this comes from life experience, right? It comes from life experience. It comes from years of study. It comes from, learning from others and then coming together, Christy and I, with our individual gifts and combining those into something that is really powerful. And, when it comes to your identity specifically, many don't realize how much of your identity has been created by one or a group of people. Like, I'll use myself as an example. I was the first person in my whole family that, went to college, got a master's degree, and I didn't realize that that was drilled in my head that I had to do those things. And then after I did those things, I needed to get a job that paid me a certain amount of money. And I spent 20 years building a career in tech and pharma, getting to that VP, senior VP level. And it started to leak through who I was, the higher I got and the more
Yeah.
entrenched I
Yeah.
got into that environment. I started feeling more uncomfortable with the status quo. And I started finding when I was truly speaking my voice, I was getting a lot of pushback in that environment. And you would think that I was saying the most awful things. I was literally talking about mentoring people, guiding people, not seeing them just as a number on a spreadsheet, not
Yes.
it being just about hitting a dollar figure, trying to, pivot the culture more into investment of people in order to get the
Mhm.
business outcome. And I was getting so much pushback. And I got to a point where I was like, well, this doesn't like align with my soul. I couldn't quite put words to
Mhm.
it, but I knew that this wasn't working. And I use the word leak because that's what it felt like. I felt like I was a dam and the dam was breaking and that there were cracks happening, and like my true spirit was starting to like poke through all of those cracks.
Mhm.
And it just, it was a very subtle thing. And that's one thing that, Christy and I have spoken about in the past, is that when you're going through an identity shift, sometimes it's not this big dramatic thing. It's something that's, it's something that is, very subtle. It doesn't hit you right away.
Mhm.
And if you aren't consciously paying attention, you'll overlook it. You'll think that it's, oh, I'm just stressed out from work. Oh, I'm just tired. No, it's something more. Like you haven't been paying attention, and now you're starting to feel like the shift that needs to happen, and it's going to happen regardless of whether you accept it or not. And that's what Rise of the Creatrix is about. It's about, okay, if you have at any point felt, lack of fulfillment, or felt like, hey, I feel like something different should be happening in my life, you're going to learn something from this usable stuff each week. You're going to be able to integrate everything that we're teaching you right away. Like, this is not a theory class, this is an action class.
Absolutely. This class is not Rise of the Creatrix is not something where you it will change your life. Let's just put it the way. It's not something that you're going to kill time going to and be like, oh yeah, that was fun. It was nice here spending time with Renelle and Christy. That was fun. No, this is about integration. And we're not saying that all of those boxes that Ronnie and I have checked, I have a master's degree also, taught college. Um, Ronnie, master's degree, you did all the corporate gigs. We're not saying that those things aren't okay to do. How are you doing them? How are you showing up for yourself
Mhm.
within that environment? I know that when you think about Rise of the Creatrix, we are creators. Women are creators. And this class is about creating your reality. And I know that if you ever listen to Esther Hicks speak it into existence, this is not a class about manifestation. This is a class about functioning at a soul level. And when you're aligned with the energy of who you are at a soul level, that creatrix energy, that creation of what you want naturally shows up in your life. You start living your life as if you're already there, and then the energy just follows. And
Yeah. And, oh, sorry. Go
oh,
ahead,
no, no,
Christy.
I was gonna say that's just something that is so difficult to do if you're not given the steps on how to do it, because none of us were ever taught.
Well, yeah. And then I think, too, an additional component to that is that at times, even though we have this awareness that we want to do more, or that we're meant for more, there is a certain level of comfort in the uncomfortableness that you're feeling, right? It to a certain point it becomes familiar to you, whereas going after that fulfillment and that peace and that comfort, because it's unknown, it feels like a risk. And I think what will happen with Rise of the Creatrix is that a woman, she stops staying in that comfortable that's not getting her anywhere, or in that loop of, oh, I'm preparing to do something bigger, and then she starts living more so from her next level. And what that means is, with a class like this, it's going to start triggering like changes in her standards immediately. She's
Yeah.
going to start speaking differently immediately. What she
Hmm.
tolerates becomes less, because her standards are starting to change. She's going to start making quicker decisions because she's becoming more aligned with what is fueling and feeding her soul and making her feel fulfilled. She won't feel like she needs to explain herself constantly to everyone, and she won't want to succumb to that exhaustion that I
Hmm.
think a lot of women feel by staying the same, or that resentment, or that sense of, just feeling kind of unseen by those that are around her. And she won't feel like, hey, I need to carry everything for everyone anymore. Because what happens is, when she starts living from that next level identity, she's going to want to stop over functioning, which goes back to what you were saying before, Christy, about, feeling like you had to overwork yourself just to feel valuable or be seen as valuable by
Hmm.
others. She stops shrinking herself and starts communicating more boldly who she is and what it is that she wants for herself. And she just stops playing small in general in her own life. And that's what's going to really become visible, like just from, week one, in terms of, what Christy and I are going to plant within you with it, with the knowledge that we're going to be sharing.
Yes. Some of the feedback, a feedback I got from the last time around in this class was something that I think just sums it up. It was a younger person, and she said that she just doesn't call her friends as much asking their opinion. And it was something that she hadn't realized until she did. Like, it was a gradual thing. She didn't make it the conscious decision, oh, you know, Christy and Ronnie said something, so I'm not going to comment. No, we never say that. We don't call, we start teaching you to trust yourself and your own path and your own standards. And so someone had given me feedback that they naturally had just stopped asking their friend's opinion. They're single, so if someone had messaged them, how should they handle this mail, what should they go on the date, what does this mean, they just learn to start trusting themselves. Also want to go back to a, because I just used that word with someone this morning when Ronnie said resentment. When you start living from a place where you're checking boxes and not from a place of congruency and alignment, you start feeling resentment, to people who love you and you love them, but because you've always shown up, you've always done all the things, you start resenting them and their expectations. But honestly, we're the ones who gave them those expectations by doing it all the time. So in Rise of the Creatrix, we really show you how to step into your own power. And this is not about doing less. This is not about having less. This is about living from a place of alignment, where instead of constantly running and chasing after what you want, you sit in a spot where it comes to you. This is so different than the way most of us were raised. And so it is something that we teach you every week. We sit with it. We show you how to embody this creatrix energy. We show you how to step into your divine feminine power. We all have it. We are all powerful beings, and we show you how to, and not in an egotistical kind of way, not in a look at me kind of way, but in a quiet, powerful way. Have you ever met those people that you just know their power just from being around them because they sit with it very comfortably? That's what the Rise of the Creatrix does.
Yeah, and I think something too that, like, just another way to kind of frame things a little bit is that when you as a woman sit down and kind of look at your life and you sort of do an overhaul and you think about the experiences that you've had with people, both, positive or maybe not so positive, at the end of the day, you are the core of those experiences. And what I mean by that is the outcome of those experiences come from how you have trained people to interact with you.
Yes.
And so if you are leaning too far on the spectrum of, you know, my experiences haven't been great or they've been all right, but they could have been better, know that with Rise of the Creatrix and, the tools that we're going to provide you with, the integration and activation that you're going to get from this masterclass, you're going to be able to train people to
Yeah.
align with that next level version of yourself, that version of yourself that is truly you, the version
Mhm.
of yourself that you're flourishing and growing into. And this is the place where it might trigger some people that are with us right now. You're going to lose some people and you need to be okay with that
Mhm.
because back to what Chrissy was saying about the feedback of that young woman who said that she stopped asking people for advice and feedback. You're going to find that you're going to be in that same mindset as well, but holistically in your life. And the thing is, it's not that, oh, I just stopped asking her or him for advice. It's more so your soul's recognition that that's not the person you should be asking for advice because
Mhm.
they're not actually aligned with me. So why would I get advice from someone who isn't on the same frequency, who isn't going in the same direction that I'm going? And when that happens, it not only solidifies your own trust in yourself, it also helps you with your discernment. You're able to see and feel who is actually going where you're going, and you put your energy not just towards yourself but those people, because they're going to be the people that are in that give loop. That's what I like to
Mhm.
call it,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's like you're giving to them and they're giving to you. It's not this give and receive sort of a thing where you're giving to someone else, they're receiving, and then you get nothing back. You don't want those types of relationships. You want that give loop. And that's what this class, it helps to fortify within you.
And it helps to stop apologizing for having boundaries. I mean, how many of us have friends or ourselves have gone through, oh, I'm sorry, we just apologize for everything. And I want everyone to be clear when Ronnie and I are talking about this. Rise of the Creatrix is not about being egotistical. It's actually about being more loving
Mhm.
to yourself first.
Yeah.
And being more loving to yourself is not about being less loving to other people. You cannot give from a place of um, lack. And when you're filling yourself up with love and self-worth, you start seeing that love and self-worth in others, and it just creates a beautiful flow of this energy. And that's where sovereignty lies, is in the ability to be able to sit with yourself and in that flow of energy that creates abundance. And this is not about, how many of us say, oh, I'm going to do that. Um, yeah, this sounds like a great class. I'm going to do it, maybe next year when things slow down. Or maybe if they offer it in the fall, I'll take it because, I have less going on then. Stop waiting to support yourself. And this is a time to do it now. Rise of the Creatrix is about, and we don't send you with a lot of work. These are shifts that are small but huge. It reminds me of a general I used to know, and well, I still know him, but and he had said one time I would just finished a project, and he's like was talking about the results of the project. I said, finally, I've been working on it a long time. It was managing this business, and he said, managing this business and managing our lives is about making small corrections and then waiting for the change around you. And he said it's like, you know, driving a submarine. When you drive a submarine, you make a small correction and then the boat catches up. Rise of the Creatrix is about you make changes within and then everything around you follows suit. This is not about cramming your worth down people's throat.
Yep.
It is not your concern. Other people's opinion of you is not your business.
Yeah, you're not here to prove or explain anything to anyone, because you only have to do that with people who aren't aligned to you. And, Chrissy was talking about like the whole worth thing. When that small step of just pivoting your mindset of loving yourself first, that throws a whole new frequency out there. And then your worth, it comes from just being, from you being present, from you being grateful for the person you are now and the person that you are growing and transforming into.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, people relate to you differently. You start noticing, opportunities might be coming to you, like unexpected money might be coming to you. Things feel a lot easier. And that one small mindset shift of, I'm going to pour love into myself and do things that fuel me. Just in that one action, in that one decision, you have changed your timeline and adjusted your frequency and what you're putting out there.
Yes. And so a quick, synopsis of that is you have to think about when you're doing something you love and you're loving yourself, that's what you're putting out into the universe. So that's what you're going to attract. Not too long ago, my husband was calling to change a car reservation or something when we're traveling. And he always does all of that. And he actually turned to me and said, Christy, can you do this? People don't usually tell you no. And I didn't really realize it, but it's true. And it's not because I go in there demanding anything. I show up as the best version of myself with the expectation I'm going to get the best version of the person in front of me. And it's about showing up like that. It's about the creatrix energy, rise of the creatrix, creating that in every single scenario of your life. So if y'all have any questions, please pop them in. I know that Ronnie and I had this slotted for 30 minutes. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat so we can get to those because we're about to head out here in a couple of minutes. I want to thank everyone who has joined us. Again, it's a masterclass, Rise of the Creatrix. You can check it out at Christy Godwin Psychic Medium under classes. I think it's also under events, but classes is a little bit easier to get to. We end that class, we have more verbiage, kind of outline of what you're going to learn in this class. We'd love to see you there. Just the difference we've seen made in people's lives is just so amazing and heartwarming. Are you seeing some comments? Is someone commenting?
No, I was just looking to see if I saw any questions or anything. Oh, no problem, Melissa. We're happy that you're here joining us and, taking part in this frequency. So
seeing Melissa, because I know Melissa from my Divine Collective and stuff, made me think about something that I wanted to talk about because Melissa has such beautiful, beautiful energy.
Yay.
And it's the power when you get people, because of who Ronnie and I are, that's the kind of people we're going to attract. We're going to attract the Melissas and the Marilyns and the Delizas of the world, those people who show up. And we're really interested in changing ourselves and understanding we change the world by starting here. And when you get that power together of multiple people, it is magnified. And we really are great at creating places where people can just show up and be their authentic selves. And just know when of course, your first night there, you're getting to know everyone, but you will just feel so comfortable with everyone in these classes because they're kind and loving and they're there to worry about themselves and to make that change in themselves.
And the thing about this class too is that, Chrissy and I are not just going to be talking heads on a screen. Like, it's very interactive. Like, just for the sake of recording, we can't have people like speaking out, but we're going to engage you in the chat. We want this to be an interactive give masterclass. We want that energy to be amplified. And that's the beautiful thing about energy. It doesn't matter where you are. Once one person starts releasing their energy and another joins, it just creates this huge bubble that can be felt anywhere. So that's the other thing, is just knowing that amplification is going to be happening in a masterclass of like-minded people who want to give, who want to learn, who want to transform, who want to elevate.
Absolutely. Very well said. All right. I want to thank everyone who has joined us today. Go to my website, Christy Godwin Psychic Medium, under classes or events, either one. Check out the class. There's more details on the site about, what we're going to be teaching and when. The classes are recorded. So if you have to miss one, they're recorded and you can watch them later. So I want to thank everyone who has joined us today. And if you have any additional questions, please reach out. You can send me an email, christygodwin111@gmail. And what's your email address, Ronnie?
Mine is activations@mystics Mana Hypnotic, or you can just reach out via Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah.
It's Mystics Mana Hypnotic.
Same, all of those things. I will several times throughout the day go through and check all of my social media platforms and answer all of the messages. So yes, you can email us or catch us on any of our platforms. Thank you everyone who's joined us, and y'all have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.